Hello everyone, this is David from Automotive Press. I'm going to switch my Toyota hat to a Lexus hat today, which should tell you something, because today we're going to be talking about Lexus brand and its future. And I am super excited to be doing this special event with Kirk Kreifels. Many of you guys know his channel because we both talk about Japanese product, particularly Toyota brand, and about Lexus too. And today we got a really amazing things we're sharing with you over a podcast about the current Lexus, but also about the future Lexus. We both have a lot to share, a lot of common vision about the future of these products, and we want to tell you everything about Lexus today, both the present and the future. So stay with us. It's going to be 1 hour of amazing video. So as Kurt often says, go grab a coffee or maybe even a meal, and please watch until the end because you're going to learn so much today. So let the movie begin. Hello everyone, this is David from Automotive Press. I am super excited to be working with Kirk today. We both have the same passion and the vision to go and impact the world through automotive industry and to share about the Japanese industry news, but all the other stuff too. So we're really excited to be working together. Kirk and we're good friends now, and we want to continue to share our knowledge and insight with everyone. So I've got Kirk online here. How's it going, Kirk?
It's going great. Thanks for having me on, David. We've been very busy people. We did the GR Corolla video back on my channel, and people loved it. They said we need to do more collaborations. And we've been trying to get together over the past 2 or 3 weeks. We've finally been able to do it. So I'm excited to be here tonight.
Thank you, Kirk. And then, Kirk, do you want to just do a quick intro? You've got quite a few followers, and so you've been doing this a lot longer than me, but just a quick intro would be helpful.
Sure. Yeah. My name's Kirk and last name's Kreifels, and that's what my channel is called. I started off as a Lexus salesperson about 3 years ago. And that's when I started my YouTube channel, and I focused mainly on Lexus vehicles in the beginning. Then it naturally spread into Toyota and other Japanese vehicles, and now I'm covering Korean vehicles on top of that. And people are asking me, to move on, not move on, but just to expand. But I'm so happy and also saturated with my workflow with Japanese and Korean cars. So that is the focus. I have no plans to ever move on from that. And there's just so much richness in the Japanese, not only culture, but also the car culture around, especially when we're talking about Lexus tonight too. I mean, the history of Lexus is a very cool story, and it's always developing. So yeah, there's a quick background for you.
Thanks, Kirk. Yeah, we again share the same kind of vision of what we want to do on the media outlet. But Kirk is a senior one. I've only been doing YouTube for 6 months. Believe it or not, it's being a very short time. But we keep crossing each other's path, and so it's about
Mhm.
time. This is our second collaboration. More to come, right, Kirk?
Absolutely. Yep.
So we want to take a little break away from the Toyota Tundra stories today, which is an
Yeah.
important news. But we want to talk about
Yeah.
Lexus today because there's a lot of stuff going on with Lexus, and of course we just had the new NX just launched very recently, which is a huge news. But there's more news coming from Lexus, so we do want to talk about the future of
hmm
Lexus.
hmm
We're both big fan of the brand. As most of you guys know, I'm from Japan, born and raised there, and used to work for Toyota and a number of other Japanese companies. So lots of things we can share. I've got lots of resources about Toyota and Lexus, and so does Kirk. So we were hoping that we can share our insight and let viewers learn about Lexus in a way that they cannot learn from anywhere else, right? So
That's
that's the
absolutely
yeah,
right.
that's the background. So let's
hmm
start off by just talking about the NX, which is and you covered that quite a bit already, Kirk. So give me a little bit of highlights of the NX and maybe just a couple of different models that they're introducing or revising for 2022.
Yeah. So the first generation NX came out 2015. I think that was the first model year is 2015. And it hasn't been the best aged Lexus vehicle, that's for sure. So when Toyota and Lexus invited me to Plano, Texas, for the unveil. I could not pass it up. So I was there, what was it, 2.5 weeks ago at this point. I got to see the NX, several different models, all the powertrains. It was a really cool experience. There's so many new. The whole vehicle is new from the ground up. It's on the TNGA-K platform, which the RAV4 is based off. The Venza that I'm reviewing right now is based off of, as well as so many other Toyota and Lexus models, and more to come, like the RX, which I think we'll talk about a little bit later in the video. But 4 powertrains on a Lexus vehicle for this new NX, I don't think has ever been seen in a Lexus vehicle before that I can. Typically, it's just a gasoline only model and a hybrid. Those are if you're lucky. Usually there's just one. So the ES being the exception now that it has all-wheel drive. So the ES has 3. So, but we've never seen this many on a Lexus before. And I think it's absolutely genius on their part from a marketing aspect. You have the base NX 250, which is the 2.5 liter naturally aspirated engine with 203 horsepower. And if they can keep this model very inexpensive, I'm hoping they can start it in the mid 30s, mid to upper 30s, and it can come in a front wheel drive or all wheel drive. So especially where I live in Florida, I'm going to be seeing these things everywhere in front wheel drive, guys. Low payments, low monthly payment, whether you're financing or doing the leasing option. So I think
And
we're
and
going to
most
see the NX 250s do really, really well, especially in the warmer climates. What were you saying,
yeah, most
David?
most people don't need all-wheel drive, right? And they don't need a
Oh,
more powerful engine like the new
no.
2.4 they introduced. So yeah, it's a low-cost entry to the NX model, which itself is a entry level for Lexus in terms of SUV, right? So okay, so tell me about the other
Well,
two
yeah.
models there, Kirk.
Yeah, well, the UX is also entry level for their, but is it really an SUV?
Not
It's
quite, more
almost
like
like a raised hatchback.
a hatchback, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The NX 350 is, really impressive. Not because of the power numbers. We kind of knew about this engine, the 2.4 liter. We knew it'd have substantially more power and torque compared to the 2 liter outgoing. But the vision of Lexus going forward is having that Lexus driving signature. And they not only developed this new engine, but they've also developed a new 8-speed automatic for it to be able to handle all the extra power and torque. And they also developed an all new full-time all-wheel drive system. To me, the only thing that might be similar might be something similar to like the super handling all-wheel drive that you see in Acura products. It's the only thing that I can compare it to. I haven't driven it yet, but I'm expecting it to probably perform pretty similarly to the super handling all-wheel drive like you see in the RDX.
Yeah, and
Um,
as a kind of a before you go to the next model, as an engineer, I've been trying to figure out this new 2.4 liter because do you know how rare it is for Toyota to introduce a brand new engine? I suspect it's actually not brand new engine. It's derived from another family of engines because it's super rare for Toyota to introduce a brand new engine for a brand new model. And the reason why is they don't like to have new model with new engine or new powertrain. They like as a whole they don't do that because
mhm,
you double the risk of defects and problems, right? So usually they have
mhm,
a new model with existing engine, or it's existing model with an improved engine, sort of thing. That's the typical industry approach. But here
mhm.
we have a new model, although I'm going to come back and talk about that because I would argue the NX is not as new as people think, because
Right.
underneath the shell it's really all RAV4. And
Mhm,
so people don't quite understand that engineering terminology, what we call platform sharing, but it's
mhm,
it's really not all new as people think. It's new body and new
mhm,
revised chassis and revised powertrain. Of course, the
mhm.
powertrain is there's quite a bit of difference with RAV4, but it's not all
Right.
new. And so it kind of interesting. I lost my train of thought here, but so I'm still kind of puzzled by the 2.4 and trying to figure out a little bit more about its the root of its engineering. So I'm gonna
Mhm.
continue to investigate that because so far I haven't been able to exactly figure out where it's coming from. But anyway, nevertheless, we've been blessed with new engines, so we're gonna take it because
Right.
it's a
I'm
good
gonna take
engine.
it.
Yeah,
I'll
exactly.
absolutely take it. One of the things in the back of my mind is we're downsizing. We'll get into the last 2 powertrains as we're downsizing due to lots of different reasons around the world. The engines. Do you think this 2.4 could start replacing the V6s in the near term?
Yeah, so I think this 2.4, again, I'll find out a little bit more about its background soon, but it's going to begin to replace V6 and other engines, but I'm not quite sure whether it will replace, like, for example, the likes of the Forerunners six-cylinder engine and down the road Tacoma. That's a big question mark for me. But the fact that they introduced a brand new engine at this point, it's a telltale sign to me that it's just the beginning of many, many engine changes upcoming for Toyota and
Hmm.
Lexus models, I think. So
Right.
now none of us have driven this new 2.4, so we'll have to drive and see, right, how good it is.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. I'm really, really excited for it. But since I'm a big fan of Toyota's hybrids as well, when we look at the NX 350h, it's only 4/10 of a second, or 4/10 of a second slower to 60 miles per hour than the all-wheel drive NX 2.4 liter turbo.
Mhm.
Um, it has 20 more horsepower, 239 horsepower, so it's 20 more horsepower than the RAV4 hybrid. And it's roughly the same speed 0 to 60, given that it's much heavier. It's going to be much more
It's heavier.
obviously, yeah, built built a lot more sturdy and more insulated. So, and a lot more technology in it too, supposedly.
Hmm. We
So I'm
have
really excited for this new hybrid.
I think so too. Yeah, like we have our company fleet, we have, as you know, a whole bunch of Toyota cars. So we have a 2020 Toyota RAV4 hybrid, and then two 2021 RAV4 Primes. I use the Prime quite a bit, and my
Hmm.
wife actually uses it a lot too. It's her regular car. So
Yeah.
it's interesting, right? I compared the RAV4 hybrid to RAV4 Prime, and they feel quite different, surprisingly
Mm.
different. So I'm curious what Lexus have done with kind of standard hybrid compared to basically their version of the Prime. So
Hmm.
I'm kind of very curious about that. But tell me a little bit more about the plug-in hybrid, Kirk.
Yeah, well, it's we've seen it. You have it essentially. At least the powertrain, same 302 horsepower. They're saying 36 miles of range, which is understandable because it's going to be a heavier vehicle than the RAV4 Prime. Same battery, same 18.1 kilowatt hour battery. Miles per gallon, we don't really know, but it's going to be
It's
less than the hybrid, given that it's that fat battery pack and is going to weigh it down a little bit. But you get the 36 miles of range, which can go up. The engineers did say in a Zoom call that I had with the Japanese engineers and designers and product managers, that they're saying, well, none of the EPA numbers are official yet, and they're kind of on the conservative side. So um,
yeah,
yeah, I think. Go
we
ahead.
being with our Prime, we've been able to hit. Of course, the RAV4 Prime has a slightly more range, right? Not a lot more, but a little bit more. And we've been able to pretty well hit that range every single time. I don't think we've
Hmm.
exceeded that number because here in West Coast Canada, we get lots of rain and the weather is still a little bit kind of
Hmm.
weird. But it's pretty well right on. Whatever the range
Hmm.
the number
I
is
think it's 42 miles of
42.
range.
Okay, 42.
Yeah.
So it's pretty well between 40 to 43 miles it's been so far. We're obviously metric here, but when you convert it, so it's been
Hmm.
pretty good. And it's interesting, right? Because it drives so different from the RAV4 hybrid. With the hybrid, the problem, not the problem, but one of the disadvantage of a hybrid is that it doesn't have as smooth of a transition, even though the hybrid is so much better than it used to be when you
It's
drive
so much
around,
better. Yeah.
so much better. If you compare to like, RX hybrid from years ago, it was the
Hmm.
transition of engine to motor when you're driving, it's very abrupt, but now it's
Hmm.
super smooth. But there is still a fair amount of engine noise coming through, when the engine is trying to work hard to keep up.
Hmm.
And I found that, for example, in the Highlander hybrid, which is now using the four-cylinder version versus the six-cylinder motor, it's really
Hmm.
loud in there. Whereas
Yes.
the Prime, because essentially it's electric car, unless you forgot to top up your battery, oh
Hmm.
my goodness, it's so quiet that the only thing we
It
hear is a
is.
road
Hmm.
noise from a tire.
Yep.
And also, the acceleration is just super smooth. You step on the gas,
Yeah.
goes off
It's an
like
electric
an
car.
airplane. Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
smooth.
It's very smooth.
Yeah. But the funny thing is that the claim 0 to 60, whatever it was, 6 seconds or something,
5.7, I think, is what
5.7.
they claimed. Yeah.
But you know what? That's only achieved when you turn on the gasoline engine. So in a fully electric mode, it doesn't achieve
Right.
that number.
Yeah. No,
So
it's true. Yeah, I tested. I was lucky enough to get one for review before I moved down to Florida. So I tested it in the winter. So my 0 to 60 was definitely nowhere close to. It was. I think it was over 7 seconds if I remember right, because we know the limitations of the batteries and the motors, mainly the batteries when it's cold. So
yeah. But
yeah.
anyway, so anything else about the plug-in hybrid, Kirk, that the viewer
No,
should know?
I think we'll talk. I think we have it later on where we talk about maybe some other powertrain options. Because I was told way long ago that there'd be 6 powertrain options, and so far we have 4. And if you want to be picky about it, maybe we have 5 because there's a front-wheel drive and all-wheel drive NX 250. And then if you want to be really specific about it, there's an NX 200 coming out for the Japanese and probably Chinese markets. So technically there's 6 out there, but I think there's supposed to be 6 coming for America.
Hmm.
So I think there's some room there we can talk about later. But did you want to talk about maybe some of the other features of the NX? Because the powertrains is
Sure.
just the beginning.
Yeah. So the biggest news is the whole new infotainment system, which
Hmm.
on the flagship model, it's a 14-inch, right? And
Correct.
you know what? Why this is so significant? It's sort of the background to this whole thing is that that particular display and the whole infotainment system was designed and developed by what we call Toyota Connected Company,
Hmm.
which is based in Texas, and they are a separate subsidiary of Toyota that builds and develops electronics and software. And so it's pretty amazing that we have basically a North American-based engineering and software company owned by Toyota that built pretty well from scratch this new system, the
Hmm.
new operating system basically. And I
Hmm.
was actually certified by Toyota Connected, what we call Scrum Master certification, which is kind of weird terminology we use in the industry, which refers to people with a facilitation experience to manage what we call agile and scrum, which is a whole new thinking in business world. So instead of a lean manufacturing or Toyota production system, we have what we call agile thinking, and it's a big business improvement technique used in software industry. So I went to Texas to get certified by Toyota, and so I know the people from Toyota Connected, and I knew that they were working on this a couple of years ago. So I'm really glad to see that they are at this point where what they designed and developed in-house is now in the NX. This is super exciting because this is going to be a preview of all the other Lexus and Toyota future cars where they're going
Right.
to be switching over to this new system, right? And it's a way,
Absolutely.
we haven't obviously used it, but it looks like it's a much easier system. It's going
Hmm.
to depend on the voice a lot more. You can just like a Siri or Alexa, it's going to allow voice to carry
Hmm.
over a lot of the instructions.
Hmm.
So we'll see. I haven't used it, so we'll find out shortly if it's super user friendly or not. But at least we're moving away from the stupid touchpad thing that Lexus has been
Mm.
stubbornly used for years. And from what I heard is that Lexus cannot wait to switch over all of the other models to the new system as soon as
Hmm.
possible, which will take place over the next few years. But
Hmm.
anyway, I'm just glad that they switched over because the old system just wasn't working well.
Yeah, it was definitely its Achilles heel, and the fact that the Toyotas use the same software but just has touchscreens made it a lot more user friendly. And Lexus in the past year or two has started to give us the option because they put the touchscreen in there as well on the new ES, LS, IS, RX. I think it started with the RX. They gave you the option not only can you use a touchpad but also the touchscreen. But now they're getting rid of the pad. It used to be a Lexus remote touch interface. They got rid of the remote touch. It's now just called Lexus interface. And then when we see it probably debut for the first time on the Toyota side on the new Tundra, more than likely, it'll be called Toyota interface.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it can work with screens anywhere from 8 inches to 14 inches in size. The NX and specifically is going to have a 9.8 inch as the base, which is still pretty big.
Still
And
pretty big, yeah.
yeah, and they've angled the screen towards the driver to make it more driver centric. And they made it pretty, like, everything's in a really tight area, so you're not looking all over the place. So they really emphasize that in that Zoom call, that, steering wheel, heads up display, which obviously not all, maybe 15% of them will come with a heads up display. And then yeah, everything's real close, all centered around the driver. But yeah,
Yeah.
there's so many features. Not only like the new software is going to be amazing, and that was the Achilles heel, but there's so many other things that this NX is bringing to the table.
Mm.
Wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto is really important for a lot of people.
Finally
uh
wireless, right? Finally
yeah,
wireless Apple.
wireless.
It's
Wireless,
about
yeah.
time.
I mean,
But
the GX and the LX still don't have either
they don't have it.
uh,
It's crazy.
Android
Yeah,
Auto or
it's
Apple
totally crazy.
CarPlay, let alone
But
wireless.
but
Yeah.
just back to the infotainment system. I don't mean to get stuck on that
No,
thing,
you're good.
but they even like because we have so many Toyota cars in our fleet, just to even set up the sometimes the Bluetooth, you got to push like 3 or 4 buttons, like it's nested deep and deep. And so
Oh yeah.
they even calculated the number of times the finger has to touch the touch panel and reduced it. And they use what we call the cadence, which is what we call the iterative approach. So what they do is they make some changes to software, they show it to an actual user at Toyota Connected, and they play with it and they give feedback, and then they change it again, and then keep on getting feedback, and they do this every couple of weeks. So in the course of 6 months or a year, they can make multiple changes, which is not what they used to do before at Toyota. They'll make changes for 6 months and they show it to a potential customer, and then it's almost too late to make a change, because by the time a customer said this is not working, well, sorry, we already programmed this. So it's
Right.
that new way of thinking using cadence and what we call the iteration. It's a new business method. And so I'm really encouraged that that has come into fruition, and not only changed the display, but all the other technology, as you mentioned, in the NX. But I will say, Kirk, I'm not too crazy about. I know they're switching the the door handle. Instead of pulling the door handle, it's got the electric system. You just touch it, and which came from Tesla originally. And I'm not too crazy about that because lately we had quite a few press car with that thing, and a lot of GM cars have it. And sometimes it doesn't quite open. You touch it and it's like, oh no, it doesn't work. Oh, let me touch here again, and it opens. So I really hope the Lexus slash Toyota's implementation of this is better, because to be honest, when it comes to gear selector and door handles, engineer's perspective, that it's just easier if it's a physical movement. But we'll see how it works.
Yeah, we'll see. Uh, I didn't get a chance to put my hand on the door handles. I probably could have if I wanted to, but yeah, it'll be interesting. The door handle does not move at all. It's fixed in place. It's an electronic latch, like you said. There's also a mechanical override, so every single door handle does have
Little tip on the
physical
bottom,
latches
right?
if you on the bottom of the handle, so on the inside and outside of the vehicle. Um, but it does allow for one pretty cool safety feature, which I'm sure you can turn it off if you want. And this is why blind spot monitor is standard, because blind spot monitor is needed for this safety feature. And it's called Safe Exit Assist. So if the blind spot monitor sees a bicycle coming up on you fast and it's within reach of where the door would open to, the door does not allow you to open it. So
It's gonna be
maybe a
interesting
little
how that
scary,
works.
a
Yeah,
little scary on both. Yeah, it's in theory, if it always works perfectly, no one gets hurt. But if that mechanism's not working, but
yeah,
you can always use the latch, the physical
override.
latch.
Yeah,
You pull it
but
twice, and it opens.
the funny thing, I'm just thinking practically speaking here. If there's a bicyclist coming down, but there's plenty of space to open the door, but you cannot open the door, it could get pretty frustrating. Like here in Vancouver, we have so many
Yeah.
bicyclists that pass it through the car. I'm just Again, we'll have to see in the real application
So
what that feels like. But
so they demonstrated it real time with a real person riding a real
oh yeah,
bicycle
yeah, yeah.
inside. So I got to see it, and there was one instance where the door opened while he was riding by, but the car actually could tell that he wasn't like
He was far
within.
enough. He was
Yeah,
far
he
enough.
was far enough
Yeah,
away,
interesting. I'm
which
just
is probably a matter of like a foot in
Yeah.
accuracy. So
but you see, like there's a threshold, right? Like if you keep on opening, you might hit the bicyclist, but if you don't will open all the way, you might be okay. So I'm kind of curious what the threshold is as an
and
engineer, but
I don't want to test it.
but
So
hey,
yeah,
Kirk, I know we have a lot to talk about the
a
NX, but I
lot.
would
Yeah.
love to talk about LX and also
Yeah.
future
Let's
models.
do it.
So it's being let's keep on. Let's I know people want to probably hear more about NX, but let's move on
Yeah.
to some future
Otherwise, you're going
models.
to have to break this video up into 5 different videos.
Exactly, exactly.
So yeah,
So
what's interesting during the NX reveal, it was a live reveal at 11 p.m. my time. It was late at night. I was live streaming. But for the American reveal, it was only about like a 1 or 2 minute long video on the
right,
NX, like very few details. But on the global page, which is also the Japanese page, they had a much more in-depth video. And during that video, Togashi, is that his name?
Togashi-san. Yeah.
Togashi-san. He's like, yep, we got another vehicle coming later this year, and he just puts his hand out
Points
referencing the
to
LX,
yeah,
the
yeah.
LX that I believe is a current gen LX covered up.
It is a current generation. So
Yeah.
I was watching your video too. So I went and confirmed the shape and so forth, the headlight,
Mm-hmm.
and as you know, I did a rendering of the new LX about a week and a half ago, and so I studied carefully what the new LX might look like based on what we know about the Land Cruiser, and clearly that shadowy look with the cover over it is
Mm-hmm.
definitely the current LX. And
Mm-hmm.
because you know what, they're not gonna bring the new LX and put it onto the stage and just cover up. They're not gonna do that.
No.
And like I met almost every single chief engineer at Toyota and Lexus. I don't think I met him because he's a little bit newer guy, but they would have staged everything so that they can show something there and at
Mm-hmm.
least make a remark. But there's no way they're going to show that model. But I have interesting news for you, Kirk.
Hit
And I
me.
heard from a Japanese source. This is again for domestic news, for Japanese news, not necessarily North American news in terms of the introduction date. But I heard that in September they're going to start taking order for the new 22 or 23. I'm not sure which model year, but the new Lexus LX600. The
Mm.
dealership have confirmed that they're going to open order in September of this year, and for the 600. And then they're also saying early next year, maybe mid next year, they're going to have the LX750, which we'll come back and talk about in a second. So
Mm-hmm.
you know what? I predicted in my previous video that it will be end of this year that they can get delivery of the LX600. But I also heard that it was getting pushed back out a little bit. So
Mm-hmm.
we're not sure the exact timing,
Yeah.
but at least they're going to open the order books in September for Japanese market. And then for North American market, maybe I don't know, maybe it's a couple months later. But it looks like this year we're going to be able to see something and maybe
Mm-hmm.
even put a deposit or order one.
Yeah. So September is definitely earlier than I was thinking. So do you think the vehicle will be revealed sometime in September then, if they're going to
Yeah,
take orders on it in that same month?
yeah. So they only in Japan they only take orders when they reveal the car or SUV in this
Mm.
case. So I think there will be another, a little bit like the Toyota GR86, maybe another Japanese-based global launch or global reveal, and but maybe it's not intended for North
Mm.
American market yet. That part I'm not quite sure. But September, October timeframe, I think we will actually see the new LX, and it's going to still look a bit like the Land Cruiser just because they share so many common parts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, for those people who are still holding on to the concept that it might have a V8, it's not going to have a V8. At
Yeah.
least not in the not in this year. Maybe a year from or 2 years later, they might have something else. But all my sources tell me the V8 is definitely dropped, and even the twin turbo V8 that everybody's talking about, I don't think it's going to happen either, right,
No,
Kirk?
I don't either. I
Yeah.
don't either. But yeah, no, hearing that the LX would be unveiled in September is pretty interesting because that's also when I think we're going to see the Tundra and learn a lot more about it. There will be some Tundra news coming very, very soon, by the way. More teasers
Forty.
on that sort of thing. But I think that would make sense because the Tundra should and the Land Cruiser should share pretty much all the same powertrains, including the
Well,
hybrids, is what I'm
yeah.
expecting.
Yeah, I just did
So,
I talked about this in the recent video, but again, people gets really wound up about Tundra, Land Cruiser, 4Runner, Tacoma, all this stuff. And what they don't realize is that not the current generation, but the new generation coming up. The whole idea for Toyota is to consolidate these
Hmm.
platforms so they can lower costs, increase efficiency, optimize the development and engineering and manufacturing. So
Hmm.
they're all moving toward a common TNGA F platform. You can take that platform, which is a frame, an engine, and a suspension, and the wheels all put together. You can stretch it, you can widen it even a little bit, and you can change the body on top. But the basic architecture of how things are engineered together is basically the same. So the
Right.
Tundra and Land Cruiser, and of course the LX, are all going to share the same engine, same transmission, the 10-speed
Hmm.
automatic, and
Hmm.
then similar but not the same suspension, of course, because one is a pickup
Right.
truck and one is not. But it's going to become more similar than it used to be, and I don't know if that's upsetting for someone, but at the same time, it's going to give us better reliability and better overall performance because they can carry the same learning from one vehicle, like the Land Cruiser,
Right.
and share across all the different models, right? So
Hmm.
it'll be an interesting
Yeah.
timing for sure.
Absolutely. And there's something else that also came to surface this week about the LX. It was actually the same day the Land Cruiser came out. It looked like some sort of ordering sheet. Land Cruiser updates shared it with the community, and he said he got it from Indonesia,
I
and
saw
it
that
said
one, yeah.
LX600 on it, 4x4, and then it said LX600 F Sport, and then also LX600 VIP. So that really got me thinking. I made a whole video on it.
Yeah.
F Sport, I can see sharing a lot with the GR Sport. To me, it makes the most sense. And then the VIP, that could just be another name for the luxury package. It's hard to say, or they could be going to that next level, kind
Hmm.
of like the LM300, more for head honcho VIP, like
Right.
VIP business owners. You know,
Hmm.
take out the rear seats, recline, TV screen, popping champagne in there. Like, we'll
Yeah,
see
yeah.
what that
So that's
VIP
going to
means,
be
but
interesting, and obviously Kirk and I share the same kind of concept, typically speaking, but we're allowed to disagree a little bit. And
sure.
so I don't think the GRS, the GR Sport version of the Land Cruiser is going to become the F Sport for
Really?
me. Yeah, yeah. What I'm hearing is, and now it's possible, it's entirely possible that could happen, but
Hmm.
what I'm hearing is they want to differentiate the LX from a Land Cruiser more than ever. So that's why the Land Cruisers have the GR Sport, and because they want to make it a more sportier, but more off-road capable, and a very different look, right? The GRS,
Hmm.
and they want to move the LX up more upscale, and then again differentiate from a normal Land Cruiser. So I think the F Sport is going to follow the similar footpath as the current thinking, which is more of a cosmetic and aesthetic approach, but not necessarily so a little bit more sportier looking, but not necessarily more off-road capable. And then the VIP is a bit of a interesting one because I don't think that VIP model will be carried over to other markets. It's going to be some parts of Asia where it's a chauffeur-driven
Right.
mentality, and so that will offer it. But for example, in Japan, the Lexus LX is not chauffeur-driven. They use LS for that, so they might not offer the
Hmm.
VIP package. But who knows? It could just be the same thing as the executive package that we have now, and
Right.
maybe they're rebranding it. So who knows about that? But I found it interesting. I think originally when that leak came out, people thought because there was LX570, they thought, oh my
Hmm.
goodness, we're keeping the V8 engine. But of course, that's the current model
Right.
because it's a 200 series versus a 300 series. So that was pretty interesting. I didn't see the LX750 numbering, but I hear that is coming next year
Hmm.
with the hybrid or plug-in hybrid that's also going into the Tundra. So again, more sharing,
Hmm.
right? So
Right.
it's going to be pretty interesting how much horsepower and torque we don't know yet, but it's going to
No.
be the upgraded version because you got the same 3.5 twin turbo V6 and add electric motor to it, potentially even the plug-in hybrid, bump up the whole spec. And that's going to be the Tundra TRD Pro, I think, and it's going to be the LX750, right? So it's pretty exciting
Hmm.
time though, Kirk.
No, it's very exciting, and a big part of that is we're just getting all new things from top to bottom, new models, new platforms. that are built around new powertrains, new transmissions, and they really showed that off when they debuted the new Land Cruiser. So yes, it's going to be definitely taking over the Lexus lineup in the near future. If NX is now, LX is coming soon. The next vehicle you would think would be the RX is coming fall 2022. And do you think we'll see some of those powertrains from the NX go over to the RX? And if so, would they differ in spec? Like, do you think that they could tune the 2.4 liter, give it a little bit more boost, or change the hybrid setup a little bit? And we haven't really talked about Direct 4 yet at all. So,
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the RX and NX is going to be closer again than ever because remember they're trying to consolidate something like 24 platforms into a dozen. So they have to shrink the number of platform by about half, which essentially means that they're going to double the number of sharing of components across all the models that Toyota and Lexus. So the NX has to share more parts and components with the RX. So I think the engine lineup will be very similar with NX with a bump up. And then, perhaps the hybrid is only one. We're not sure. Would it still use the RAV4 hybrid system or would it stay with the current hybrid with the V6? That is only part I'm not quite sure. But I think the RX has to come in plug-in hybrid format too, because there's no way they're going to offer the plug-in hybrid for NX and not for the new RX,
oh yeah,
which I think is coming out. So I think fall of 2022 as a model year 2023 is when the new RX should come out. So that's gonna be a huge news, right? Because the RX is a volume seller.
it's the big one. It's the number one seller worldwide for them, as far as I'm pretty sure. There might be some instances where the NX might do better in Europe or something. Um, but the RX is very exciting. And the fact that the plug-in hybrid is coming for it, they already have a 450h. I I'm hoping that they're able to give us an NX F Sport performance with a more potent plug-in hybrid or something like that, or maybe a higher output 2.4 liter. And that's something that we would see in the RX. The RX is going to be a bigger, heavier vehicle. So I'm hoping it has a little bit more power to get it around. To me, it would be a little bit of a disappointment if they just gave it the same powertrains as the lighter, smaller NX and called it a day. But
Yeah, it's hard to say because, with the Highlander, when they introduced a new Highlander, they downgraded the hybrid to match
yep.
with the RAV4, right? And Highlander is way bigger than the RAV4. So again, we don't know for sure, but
hmm
there's it's either that's what they're gonna do with RX because now above the RX we're going to get the TX, right? So that might have the
hmm
more higher output or they could potentially use that new 2.4 with the hybrid system. So yeah, I guess we'll have to find out.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we will eventually see the 2.4 with a hybrid, since we're going to see the 3.5 liter twin turbo with a hybrid in the TNJF platform vehicles. So I think they could definitely go into some uncharted territory in terms of playing with some different combinations there.
Definitely. I mean, the TX is going to be an interesting one. I think that one is a couple of years away, so I don't think that's going to happen next year. I think
Yeah,
it's the
2023.
following year. But what
Yeah.
about we should talk about the GX because people are still very loyal. And I owned two GX some years back, and then most recently I had a 2017 GX, which I only kept for a few years. I love driving that thing. Super
hmm
solid, very different feel
Yeah.
from the Forerunner. So everything
Right.
as you know, I own the number of Forerunners, and everything I didn't like about the Forerunner, the GX fixed it basically because more power, V8 engine, more comfort.
Smooth.
But
Yeah.
but it's also very outdated, right? It's just way overdue for a big
My
change.
gosh.
So overdue. So I think the GX, which is built in Tahara factory, the Tahara factory is people don't know about that factory too much because everyone talks about the Motomachi factory where the Takumis are and where LFA was produced, but Tahara factory is the jewel of Toyota because that's
hmm
where most of the big Lexus are produced and
hmm
4Runner is produced there too. And it's a shockingly amazing plant that's a little bit tidier than the other factory, lower volume, higher quality
hmm
and so I go there like a couple of times a year when we're able to travel, and I'm always shocked how amazingly built these models are.
Hmm.
So thankfully the GX will still be built there, and
Hmm.
but it's going to be changing over because there's a new 4Runner coming next year, as well as the new Sequoia. But Sequoia is tied to the Tundra, and then 4Runner is linked to the GX, right, which is called the Prado, Land Cruiser Prado
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
Asia. So both the 4Runner and the GX will change over in similar time frame, both built in Tara factory, but the 4Runner will come out first, I think, summer, early fall 2022, and GX is probably 6 months after that. So either end of
Hmm.
2022 calendar year or maybe beginning of 2023, because everything got pushed back about 3 to 6 months. But there is definitely a new model coming out, and I can't wait to see
It's
that.
really exciting. Yeah, we all knew we were going to get a new RX, NX, LX, but GX has always been a question mark, but it's coming, and we're really excited. Powertrain though on a new GX, that's probably one of the most mysterious things. I mean, the LX it's Land Cruiser, and then just stick a electric motor in there, and yeah, and the rest of them we've kind of figured out from the NX, but the GX, they're not going to keep the V8. They already shown
They're
that
not
they're
going to keep
canceling
the
the
V8.
V8.
Yeah.
So I have no idea what they're going to do with the GX's powertrain. I can't wrap my head around it at this point in time.
Yeah, the interesting thing is that the GX, which shares a platform with 4Runner, which shares a platform with a Fortuner, which is only
Hmm.
sold in Asia. The Fortuner has a really weird engine combination because that also shares some underpinning with Hilux
The
truck.
Hilux, yeah,
And so they have like a small four-cylinder turbo, diesel engine.
diesel, yeah.
So they have like complete different engine lineup than either the 4Runner or the GX. So when you mix
Hmm.
everything together, it's gonna be hard to figure out. But that, not the GX, but the 4Runner slash Fortuner, I think could potentially get that new 2.4, and
Hmm.
they will still get a diesel engine, I think, not for North American market,
Right,
even
right.
for 4Runner. But the GX will, I have a feeling the GX will get the 3.5 twin turbo V6. Each,
You think so?
I think so. But that one is a big question mark. I'm still working on that
Hmm.
information a little bit more.
Right.
So we'll have to see. That one is a harder one to figure out yet.
Yeah, it's either they give it a lot of power compared to what it's used to, or about the same with a Turbo 4 setup.
Yeah,
Um, so
hard to say right
no
now.
one wants no. I don't think there's anyone out there that wants a Turbo 4 cylinder in a GX.
No, I mean it's priced way too high to offer
Hmm.
for Turbo 4, but who knows? Toyota could be pretty aggressive with trying to not downgrade, but dramatically change the way powertrain works with these models. We'll have to see.
Right.
But I haven't seen anything. The problem with 4Runner and GX is that they're built in Japan, so the leak, you don't get leaked photos like we get with
Yeah.
Tundra, right? Because in Japan, they have a huge compound for testing vehicles because obviously their head office is there, engineering is there. So they can test forever all of the prototype without ever taking it onto the real street. And so I don't know, we might not see a spy photo ever until the
Well,
release
here's the
time.
thing. I think there might be a chink in the armor because of the new racetrack they built, and they're moving all Shimoyama. They're moving all the Lexus development out there. That's what they're saying, anyways. Probably
Yeah,
tuning, and it's, I can't see them. Obviously, production's not out there, but it
no.
looked like the designers and engineers. A lot of them are moving out to the Shimoyama test track. That is a
Yeah,
really big track, and I bet I bet some spy shots could be snuck in there through the forest in Japan.
yeah. So that one, it's an interesting one. But so what they do at Toyota is the research and development and engineering. It's a little bit separated from the testing and evaluation group. So the testing and evaluation group that's going to have to do things like a durability testing, configuration of the powertrain, and the tuning up, they will all be at the track side, or at least be close to the track side. But the heavy duty engineering, designing and developing the actual model, the powertrain, they will stay intact with the traditional engineering group. So
Hmm.
I think that's a little bit separated the two. But either way, the track will be so well covered by security, you cannot even fly a helicopter over it. There's
Right.
just so maybe a drone, but drone is illegal in many parts of Japan. So I don't know how. I haven't seen a single leaked photo of anything from drone yet, but who knows?
Wow.
Maybe they'll come up with a miniature drone that goes
Hey,
into the track.
I'm always looking for opportunities. So if someone was, I don't think people are as risky over in Japan as they are here in
No,
America.
yeah.
And if you get caught for something like that, the penalties are far worse over
So
there.
much worse. Yeah, so
Yeah.
much worse. So anything else coming up, Kirk? We're ra-
Yeah, I mean,
we're, we're
we've
almost.
talked a lot about powertrains because we really enjoy that. But Lexus electrified, and we really haven't talked at all about Direct 4 or the RZ 450E, which has been trademarked. So the RZ 450 is we're expecting to be the production version of the LFZ electrified, which is a gorgeous concept. I did a video on it, walking a quick walk around in Plano. They're going to have to change quite a few design pieces of that for production, but I've been told the general design is kind of what we should expect for a production version.
It looks great,
So,
right? It looks
oh yeah,
fantastic. Oh, wow.
it looks really futuristic. People aren't they'll know it's a Lexus because the spindle grill is built into the body. It's not. It's I guess it's a spindle design, not a grill anymore. So they'll know. And then they also, of course, are typing out Lexus on the back instead of the badge. That's going to be a design cue on the new LX going forward. It starts with the NX. But no, Direct 4, when I asked the engineers in that Zoom call, I'm like, okay, well, it looks like this has the same powertrain, referring to the NX. It looks like it has the same powertrain as the RAV4 Prime. Is this using Direct 4 technology that you guys showcased in December? And they're like, nope. Models in the future will be using Direct 4, but none of the options we have at launch have Direct 4 technology.
I think that's still a little bit away,
Hmm.
but who knows when that will exactly come out. But
Hmm.
I'm really excited about the RZ. In Canada we say RZ, but I've converted now to say RZ. So
Yeah,
but anyway, it looks great, and that is just the beginning of many more electric cars that come from not just Lexus but from Toyota, right? As
right.
we by 2025 they're going to have quite a few cars out there.
Yeah.
So it's a huge shift for Toyota in terms of vision and direction, and so I know that we none of us can go to Japan right now. The border is closed, but I'm hoping end of this year I'm going to Japan, and or at least January because there's an auto salon. It's gonna open up
Mm.
in Tokyo. So if I
Hmm.
get to go to Japan in January, I'm gonna go and visit Tahara factory. I'm gonna go to Motomachi factory and then link up with some of the people that I know, and hopefully we'll bring up some more interesting news. But for now, we shared a lot and
Hmm.
more new models, not just from Lexus but from Toyota. And I know people are still curious about Tundra. Might have to cover that in the next collaboration with you, Kirk. But
Hmm.
we're losing our patience, I think, with the Tundra. But it's coming very
Yeah.
soon, right? That's all we can say.
Yeah. We'll know more by the end of the summer. And that seems like a long ways away.
It's only a couple months away. That's
I
how
know.
we.
I know.
I gotta buy that one when it comes out because I'm so
Yeah.
upset that's delayed so many times. I'm gonna just literally grab it and buy it.
Hey, you know you're going to be paying over sticker or close to. I mean, the demand is going to be
I
crazy.
know, but you know what? In Canada, illegal to do that, so we never pay over a sticker. We're lucky.
Huh. Well, it should be illegal here in America, but we have some other, freedoms here that are nice too. I'm not going to complain about.
Yeah,
So,
of course, of course. Hey, this has been an amazing, amazing collaboration, Kirk. Again, we have so much interesting insight when we put our heads together, and we can keep on talking for 5 hours, and
right.
we would love to do that, but it's almost an hour now, so we should probably close up. We went straight, nonstop for almost an
Yeah.
hour, and again, in the next collaboration, we'll think of what we should talk about, but we want some feedback from our viewers, what they want to hear about from
Yeah. What do they
us,
want to hear?
right? And so the first one, I went over to your place to do the collaboration
Hmm.
podcast, and this time you're coming over to our channel, and then maybe I'll come over back to your side. But let us know what you guys want to hear from both of us, and let us do some research and investigate a bit further so we can give you as much information and insight as possible because we love this stuff. This is our life. This is what we love to do.
Hmm.
and Kirk and I really enjoy. But I have to meet you at some point, Kirk, when when
Yes.
I'm allowed to cross the border. Finally, we'll have to meet somewhere and go for a long drive or something.
Or maybe go for a long flight to Japan together. That would be a dream come
Perfect.
true. That would
That's
be amazing.
that's even better. All right. So
Right.
thank you. Thanks, Kirk. And thanks, everyone, for being patient for a long podcast / video here. We're going to end it for now, but a lot more to come in coming weeks. And we'll continue to share individually from our channel, but we'll be doing things together again. That's it for now. Thank you so much, guys. We're both signing off for now. Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
David.